Well, I just want to welcome everybody back to the salon. Everyone here is a regular. And so you already know that we have a guest speaker every month. We pick a new theme every month, which if it's not outright spiritual in nature, we'll look at it through a spiritual lens. So tonight, it is my great privilege to introduce those of you who don't know her, Rachel Mann, who is a new member also of the Valley of Light community as a non-resident member. And she is multifaceted. Tonight, she's going to be wearing her shamanic hat. She is a shamanic healer, and she's a spiritual teacher. Her work combines the wisdom traditions of Native American spirituality, Buddhism, and deep psychology, in addition to the shamanistic approach. She's the founder of the Institute for Awakened Heart Shamanism, where she offers deep teachings on how to step into your natural abundance, authentic power, soul force, and spiritual sovereignty. Rachel's also a member of the faculty at Atlantic University, which offers an MA in transpersonal psychology and is affiliated with the Edgar Cayce Association for Research and Enlightenment. Rachel also writes on spirituality and the new shamanism, and she's been published in both popular and scholarly venues, including Change Magazine and Spirituality and Health. And I know she also has a book in the works right now. And lastly, I'll just add that Rachel is going to be leading our women's retreat in August. And it will be our first live on-campus event in over a year and a half, because we shut the campus down during COVID. So we're really excited that Rachel's going to be leading the first retreat post-COVID. So Rachel, with that introduction, I'm going to turn it over to you and look forward to where you're taking us.
Thank you. Thank you, Laura. What a nice introduction. Yeah. So I'll say that in a way, even though that, and thank you, everybody. I love the Oracle Institute. I love everybody here. I know I would love everybody here who I don't know as well, but certainly the usual suspects who are here showing up. So, and I just want to thank everybody for the opportunity to be a part of the Oracle Institute and its peace building mission, its mission of spiritual activism, and raising our vibration to a higher level. So I'll add to my bio that I did leave my 10-year job at the University of Virginia in 2007 to become a shamanic healer and spiritual teacher. And it's a decision that I have never regretted. And so here I am almost 15 years later and, doing what I love. So I'm here to talk about the rising of the divine feminine and what it has to do with what's going on in the world today, my understanding of it, my personal human understanding of it, the understandings that I have through many of my spiritual teachers, and particularly the teachers of the Andes in Peru, the indigenous teachers of the Andes, who have been my teachers for 15 years. So I'm just going to start by offering a prayer. And I'm going to pray here using a rattle, actually. Just a short prayer to call in the energy of the divine feminine. Oh, beloved Pachamama, Mama Kita, Blessed Mamia, La Tierra Madre, Matsilia, Great Cosmic Earth Mother, rock, stone, people, tree, plant, people, all beings who walk, swim, crawl, fly, and creep, the powers of nature, the forces of the elements. Oh, blessed ones, precious ones, our sisters and brothers, how much we love you. Thank you. Gracias. Thank you. for all the ways you hold and help, teach, nourish, heal, guide, protect us. We call upon you to dance with us in this medicine space. Let us dance the dance of sacred reciprocity, exchanging the burdens that we each carry, and together transmuting them into gifts of light, love, wholeness, peace, compassion, harmony, and balance for one another, all our relations, and our blessed Mother Earth. Aho, aho. May it be so. I call upon the divine seven goddesses, the seven sacred rays of the Pleiades. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for the wisdom, for the rainbow lineage that you hold and carry for us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for pouring in your health, your vitality into us, for pouring in your great shining, for pouring in your great purpose and mission, your abundance, your comfort, your unconditional love, for pouring in your light, your spirit. We pray to Pachamama, the great mother, she who holds the great container of space within which we can incarnate in human form. And we thank you and we love you. So I straddle the worlds of the academic, the spiritual, and the activist. And one of the things that began to happen to me a few years ago, after I had been teaching this very deep medicine way, this very deep medicine tradition, based upon a Mesa tradition. So a Mesa is a medicine bundle that, or a sacred altar. And in the Andes, it is carried as a small wrapped linen pouch that is filled with sacred stones and crystals that are attuned to particular sacred elements, animal allies, and apus, as they are called, mountain spirits, and that are essentially the awakened heart medicine that that these beings of light have to give us. What was very interesting to me about 3 years ago, 2 to 3 years ago, is after carrying this particular Mesa, into which I was initiated from 2007 to 2009, and my understanding that the Mesa I carried, this Mesa that I still carry, is a masculine Mesa. And I became aware of the fact that I needed to change what I was teaching, and the spirits and guides told me that I would be actually creating a new feminine Mesa that was anchored into the divine feminine. Now, let me explain something about the Andean, the cosmology of the indigenous peoples of the Andes. So in their cosmology, the feminine and the masculine dance in harmony with one another, meaning that in their balanced nature, both hold the container of time and space. So so Pachamama, or the Pacha, so the Pacha is all of creation. So we say Pachamama, which means the great divine mother. It's also what we call the Earth Mother, who is a physical emanation of the cosmic mother, and Pachatata, which is the emanation of the divine masculine. And so Pachamama is space in the Andean cosmovision, and Pachatata is time. And so as we move through our lives, we are moving through space in time. And really at the intersection of time and space, of the divine masculine, divine father, the divine feminine, there is the eternal. So let me go back to the mesa that I carry, the first one. So in the traditional ways, at least traditional as is remembered in the ancestral memory of the medicine people of the Andes, there would be a stone in the center that would hold what is called an auki. And an auki is a masculine elemental being. Now, the truth is that when we talk about elemental beings, such as the apus or the aukis, or in the case of the nustras, so the nustras are all bodies of water in the Andean cosmology, are feminine. So in ancestral memory, meaning the memory that is remembered, right? The memory that's been passed on, there was always an auki in the middle of the mesa. And now we are being called to hold the goddess in the center. And so this is the crystal. So this is the crystal goddess that I now carry in the center of what is my new mesa, into which my old mesa is morphing. And this crystal was charged to these three sacred goddesses, sacred to the Andes. And, you know, I just want to say that the faces of the goddesses, so the goddess in all of her manifestation, all of her faces through time, will appear in whatever form works within that cultural context. My understanding in working with these goddesses, this goddess energy through my new mesa, is that, you know, these are the goddesses that go by other names, say in, you know, the ancient goddesses of Greece and so on. And so the tide is shifting for the rising of the divine feminine. Now, this has been going on for several decades, but it's really coming to a peak in this time. And why I'm telling you about this is the mesa, which is really basically, as I said, a sacred altar. So I'm going to take my mesa here and show you what it looks like. So my mesa here is this bundle, is this medicine bundle. And so when I open it, and I'm going to hold it in my lap, you're going to see that it is filled with stones and crystals. And so each of these stones and crystals are charged to a particular sacred energy. So to the four directions, east, south, west, and north, and also to the center. So the crystal, the goddess crystal, goes in the center. And this goddess crystal I charged early in the morning, not long after sunrise of the equinox of this, I mean the solstice, this winter in December. And then there are 7 sacred stones that are charged to the 7 goddesses, or the 7 rays, which are the 7 sisters from the Pleiades. Okay, so I'm going to show this to you here. And hopefully you'll be able to see. So this is the mesa. So it's in a mesa cloth like this. And then each of these stones, the white and black stones, so the black is the feminine and the white is the masculine. So this is Pachatata and this is Pachamama. All right. And then there's the 4 stones of the directions, and then the 7 stones that circle around it. It looks a little more organized when it's on a flat plane. So the significance of calling in this feminine energy is that it is very powerful and potent energy. And in In the Andean way, there is this story, there is this teaching that we are in the time of Pachacuti, which is in a time of profound change. And there is this idea that has been also articulated by other native peoples, the Hopi and so on, that we are emerging out of an age of separation into an age of communion. What is really truly important about this energy of communion, which is the energy of the divine feminine? So when we're in communion, it means that we are, so as human beings, we are always and ever, whether we're conscious of it or not, in communion with Mother Earth. But of course, because of the march of history and the rise of male-dominated patriarchal ways, we lost that sense of communion. And that sense of communion comes directly through the Divine Mother, through the goddess, because it is through her that we anchor into the earth and that we anchor into sacred space. And within that space, we are creator beings, and we are thus co-creating the world, co-creating our lives, co-creating the world through our dreaming, through our vision. So what feels very important to me about this idea of the goddess and the divine feminine, so I want to tie this back into two concepts that are central to the Awakened Heart Mesa, as I call this. The one is something that I call soul force. Now, in the shamanic world of Western shamanism, the word power is often used. And that idea of power has often to do with acquiring the ability to be in such alignment with, dramatic communion with spirit energy that one can actually shapeshift from human form into animal form, or one can become invisible. I prefer to use the word medicine, or soul force. So my understanding of the soul is that the soul is our individualized presence, the presence that comes into incarnation, that chooses an incarnation, the family, the society, the nation, the conditions within, through, and around us. And that when we are able to connect with our soul, we are able to connect with our medicine, which might be called a kind of force, a kind of powerful energy. I was always very, of course, we know stories in Western civilization. We know how the female mysteries of millennia ago began to become denigrated, and even of 500 years ago. And the feminine and anything associated with the feminine were put down, were sidelined, or were labeled as demonic or evil. And it is interesting to know that in the traditions in the Andes, that this Western concept of the feminine being less than infiltrated their spiritual cosmology, so that in some villages, there is still this idea that only men can be mesa carriers. What is interesting is that in all of the courses and programs that I've taken, being initiated into the mesa, is that most of the people in the room are women. And of the students who come to study the mesa tradition with me, most of them are women. And so what is happening? The divine feminine is on the rise. And in a way, you can see how this mesa, as it is folded, is a pouch, right? And it is therefore a womb. It is a womb of creation. And so the great seed at the center of the womb is the goddess, is the divine feminine energy now, because that is where we are shifting to in order to harmonize these energies. So the feminine now holds the center in the four directions. And then the cosmic mother, the cosmic father, space and time have their position as well. But always and ever, it is the sacred divine mother that is in the center. I don't consider this to be an either or proposition. To me, I recognize this as a badly needed resurgence of the divine feminine, so that the women in the world will awaken to the fact that, yes, they do have natural communion with Pachamama, with Mother Earth. And that as such, they have a natural medicine of transformation and healing that can be accessed within them. There was a time when I experienced a past life as a man. He was actually a French holy warrior. And he stayed with me for several days. And I had the shocking revelation or experience of the fact that his body felt, as he was inhabiting my body, that his body felt very upward oriented, as compared to my feminine body, which felt very deeply the pull of gravity of the earth. And it is that pull of gravity that is needed to anchor in, to be the container for the sky mind energy of the masculine. Now, in terms of sacred activism, what does this really mean for men and women? There are now practices in the Andes where the men must actually pray to the sacred feminine, pray to the divine feminine, and ask for forgiveness on behalf of themselves and their ancestors for the harm that has been done to the feminine. And then the women have to say prayers, apologizing for the way they have given up their agency, their medicine, their power. For it is a dynamic dance, correct? When we live in a place of separation and believe that one is above the other. And so the one that is seen below becomes internalized. And the fire, the truth within, begins to dim and go out. And in that lack of harmony and balance, which is called Aini in the Quechua language, which is sacred reciprocity. When that balance, when it is out of balance, then the world is out of balance. So stepping into the energy of the divine feminine gives us as women the courage, because when we step into that alignment with the divine feminine, so I'm holding the crystal so that I can speak from the place of the divine feminine, of the sacred goddesses, is that when we can hold this center, to be in the center of our medicine, of the natural pathways of transformation, and then receive time, receive the light of time, of the sky mind, then what happens is that we can then join heart and mind, and we can come from a place of great compassion. One of the great tasks of the rising of the divine feminine is to increase the vibration of the planet and to also allow to come in unconditional love. And with unconditional love, there's an incredible font of generosity And that font of generosity sees through the illusion of us and them. That font of unconditional love sees truthfully the harm that is being done to some. It sees truthfully the uninitiated masculine and the harm that the uninitiated masculine does. Martín Prechtel, a very great shaman trained among the Maya of Santiago Atitlan in Guatemala, said that in the spiritual teachings, it was understood that boys and men, if they were not initiated into the ancient mysteries of the divine feminine, would end up being very destructive. And so the boys were initiated into the divine feminine, into this practice of the sacred bundle. And the sacred bundle was a bundle of the divine feminine. And they were taught to be a keeper of the bundle of the divine feminine. So that then when they stepped out after the initiation, they were grown-up men who understood that their purpose is to be in service of Mother Earth, in service of all our relations, the rock stone people, the tree plant people, all beings that walk, swim, crawl, fly, and creep, and in service of the divine dance with the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine. So when it comes to how to put this into action in the world, in terms of being an activist, what I understand from my experience doing anti-racism, anti-violence teaching and training for many decades is that when we are not balanced, when we are not anchored into the earth, when we are not in good communion with Mother Earth, with the divine feminine, and therefore anchored into that unconditional love and into the natural pathways of transformation that work through her body and our bodies, then we come from a very brittle place. We come from a place of woundedness, not a place of wholeness. And we come from a place of being angry at men, when really what we need to see truthfully is the deep truth that men, even as men may have been the perpetrators in the broad sweep of history, that without the rising power of the feminine, the unconditional love, and the unconditional love of the Divine Father, because it's not either or, it's both and, but they have to be joined together. So we are in a time of the great balancing of the divine feminine. So when we step into sacred activism, what we are really doing, so sacred activism for me is working with the divine feminine through my mesa, through my spiritual practice. It is a deep and prayerful work. And it also means that I take the step to speak up for the need to end violence, which is a result of the out of balance system, where the divine masculine has been seen as all powerful and the feminine as weak. And then we can come into any place of activism from this place of soul force, of medicine, both men and women. And it is, of course, also time to have women step up and understand that this power is within them, for many have forgotten.